Your father begged for mercy before I killed him. Elias Shadowbeard's words echo in 12-year-old Grayson's mind as claws open his chest and leave him dying in the snow. But death doesn't come. Instead, the most feared Alpha King in Montana finds him, and makes an offer that will either save him or destroy what's left of his soul. 15 years later, Grayson returns home wearing a wolf mask and carrying 15 years of rage. But something's wrong. His family doesn't recognize him. His sister thinks he's the enemy. And the man who trained him? He's been playing a game Grayson is only now beginning to understand. And tonight, on a battlefield soaked in blood and betrayal, Grayson will discover that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one who taught you how to fight. Will Grayson become the very thing he swore to destroy, or honor a legacy he spent 15 years trying to forget? The night the wolf's manes fell. The snow fell soft that winter solstice, each flake catching the crimson light of the blood moon like tiny drops of frozen fire. 12-year-old Grayson stood beside his father on the northern watchtower, watching the pack gather in the courtyard below. Ceremonial torches blazed against the Montana darkness. Wolves, some in human form, others shifted, moved through the compound with easy grace, their voices rising in ancient songs of pack and moon and territory. Any wolf can inspire fear, son, Isildur said, his hand warm on Grayson's shoulder. The Alpha's voice was deep, steady, the kind of voice that made you believe the world had order. A true Alpha inspires loyalty. Remember that. Strength without compassion creates tyrants. Compassion without strength creates victims. You must be both. Grayson nodded, trying to memorize every word. Below, his elder brother Garrett laughed with the warriors, already moving like he belonged among them. Little Lyanna chased fireflies near the gardens, their mother watching with patient amusement. Everything felt eternal. Everything felt safe. He should have known better. Wolves can smell a storm coming. Before we begin, I need you to do something. Hit subscribe, like this video, and comment where you're watching from. Your support brings you more incredible stories like this one, and what's about to unfold. You absolutely don't want to miss it. Now let's dive in. Midnight arrived with screaming. The compound's eastern wall exploded inward, not from battering rams but from coordinated strikes by shifted wolves, their claws tearing through reinforced timber like it was paper. Shadowbeard's forces poured through the breach, a tide of dark fur and red eyes and savage purpose. The ceremonial songs twisted into howls of alarm, then agony. Grayson froze on the watchtower. His father moved like lightning. Run, Isildur commanded, already shifting mid-leap. Find your mother. Protect your sister. But Grayson couldn't move. Couldn't look away. Below, his brother Garrett positioned himself between the attackers and their mother, who clutched Lyanna and the twins. Garrett fought with everything their father had taught him: strength, precision, honor. It wasn't enough. 3 Shadowbeard warriors fell on him like a pack bringing down elk. His final scream cut through the night, and Grayson's legs finally remembered how to run. He made it to the armory stairs before he saw his father's last stand. Isildur Wolfsmane fought like legend said Alphas once fought, before politics and territory disputes dulled their claws. He moved through Shadowbeard's warriors like winter wine through dead leaves, each strike precise and devastating. For a moment, Grayson thought his father might actually win, might save them all. Then Elias Shadowbeard himself stepped into the courtyard. The enemy Alpha's eyes glowed like forge coals. He didn't rush. Didn't need to. 6 more warriors joined the circle around Isildur, hemming him in, wearing him down. Grayson watched from the shadows as his father, bleeding, exhausted, still defiant, fought until his legs gave out. Elias's claws found his throat. But Isildur's eyes found Grayson. Their gazes locked across the burning courtyard, and his father's lips moved, forming words without sound. Remember what I taught you. Remember. Then he was gone. Grayson didn't remember deciding to run. Didn't remember the scream that tore from his throat or the hands that dragged his mother and sisters away. He only remembered Elias turning toward him, those red eyes finding him in the darkness. Tell the other packs, Elias said, almost gentle, as his claws opened Grayson's chest from shoulder to ribs. This is what happens to those who stand against Shadowbeard. The snow turned red beneath him. Grayson crawled, he didn't know where, just away, leaving a trail of blood steaming in the winter night. His vision blurred. His fingers went numb. The compound's fires became distant stars. He was dying. He knew he was dying. The snow felt almost warm now, almost comfortable. A shadow fell across him, massive and dark against the blood moon. Grayson tried to focus, tried to see if death had a face. "Not yet, pup," a voice like grinding stone said. "Your story doesn't end here." Kieran Bloodfang lifted him from the snow, and everything went black. The Alpha King's bargain. Pain woke him. Not the sharp agony of claws tearing flesh, but the deep, grinding ache of a body trying to remember how to live. Grayson's eyes cracked open to firelight dancing across stone walls. He lay on furs thick enough to drown in, bandages tight across his chest. Each breath tasted like copper and ash. The Alpha King sat across the room, perfectly still, watching him with eyes that held no warmth and no cruelty, just calculation, like a wolf deciding whether wounded prey was worth the hunt. "You're awake," Kieran Bloodfang said. Not a question. A statement of fact delivered in that grinding stone voice. "Disappointing. I thought you'd sleep longer. The weak ones usually do." Grayson tried to speak. His throat produced only a rasp. "Your father is dead," Kieran continued, brutal in his honesty. "Your brother is dead. Your mother and sisters, they're not dead. Shadowbeard kept them. Trophies. Leverage. Slaves. Does that word hurt worse than the wound across your chest?" "It did. God said did." "You can die here," Kieran said, leaning forward. The firelight carved his face into something ancient and terrible. "Lie in these furs and let infection take you. Let grief drown you. Let rage eat you from the inside until there's nothing left but a ghost that haunts these mountains. That's the easy path. That's the path most would take." Grayson's fingers curled into the furs. His vision blurred, tears or blood loss he couldn't tell. "Or you can survive." Kieran's voice dropped to something almost gentle, which made it worse. "If you choose to survive, I'll train you. I'll make you strong enough to take back everything Shadowbeard stole. Strong enough to make him regret leaving you alive. But understand this, pup, you'll never be that innocent child again. The boy dies tonight either way. The question is whether something stronger is born in his place." Images flashed behind Grayson's eyes. Garrett's broken body. Mother's screaming face. Lyanna reaching for him as Shadowbeard's warriors dragged her away. Elias's red eyes, glowing with satisfaction. Father's lips forming those final words. "I'll do anything," Grayson whispered, the words scraping out like broken glass. "Teach me." Kieran nodded, something like approval flickering across his features. "Then forget mercy. Forget weakness. Remember only rage. That rage is your fuel now. Let it burn away everything soft, everything gentle, everything your father tried to make you. Can you do that?" Grayson thought of his father's teaching, strength and compassion both together. The memory felt distant already, like something from another life. Another boy. "Yes," he said. Kieran stood, massive and immovable as the mountains themselves. "Good. Sleep now. Your training begins tomorrow. You have 1 year to earn the right to speak your family's name again. Until then you're no one, just another wolf learning to hunt." The Alpha King left, and Grayson turned his head to the window. Beyond the glass, warriors moved through moonlight like shadows made flesh, their forms shifting between human and wolf with practiced ease. Their movements held no wasted motion, no mercy, no hesitation. Pure, distilled lethality. "I'll become stronger than all of them," Grayson whispered to the empty room. "I'll make Shadowbeard pay. I'll tear him apart. Oh, remember what I taught you." His father's voice, soft as falling snow, whispered through his mind. Not Elias's red eyes or his family's screams, but that moment on the watchtower. Strength and compassion. Both together. Grayson squeezed his eyes shut and pushed the memory down into darkness. He needed rage now. Rage would make him strong. Rage would bring his family home. Everything else was weakness. Everything else would get him killed. Becoming the weapon. The first winter, Grayson broke his left arm in 3 places. The second winter, his ribs. The third his jaw. By the fourth winter he'd learned to break others instead. Kieran's training ground was a killing floor disguised as education. Combat trials in wolf form where mercy meant maiming, where hesitation earned shattered bones. Pack warfare tactics that treated other wolves as obstacles to eliminate, not beings to coexist with. Every lesson distilled to a single truth: dominate or die. Bonds are vulnerabilities, Kieran said, watching Grayson spar against 3 opponents simultaneously. Blood painted the snow beneath them, some his, most theirs. Love makes you hesitate. Hesitation makes you dead. True power comes from making others fear you more than they fear death itself. Grayson absorbed it all like parched earth drinking poison rain. His body hardened, lean muscle replacing childhood softness, scars mapping every lesson learned. His instincts sharpened until he could smell fear on the wind, hear a heartbeat skip from 20 paces. But something else changed too, something harder to name. The part of him that used to laugh at Lionel's jokes, that used to help his mother in the gardens, that part grew quiet. Then quieter. Then silent. The other warriors called him Ghost. Not because he moved silently, though he did, but because looking in his eyes was like looking at someone who'd already died and forgotten to stop moving. Most dedicated student I've ever trained, Kieran told his lieutenant, not realizing Grayson could hear every word. Never complains. Never hesitates. Perfect clay. Perfect weapon, Grayson thought. That's what you mean. But the dream started in year 2. At first, just fragments. His father's laugh, the warmth of a hand on his shoulder, Lionel singing off-key during festivals. Trauma echoes, nothing more. Grayson pushed them down, focused on training. Rage was fuel. Memory was weakness. Then the dreams became vivid. Clear. His father stood in the wolf's main courtyard as it used to be, whole, unburned, alive. Isildur would turn, open his mouth to speak, reach toward him. Grayson would wake before the words came. Year 3 brought the trial that nearly broke him. Kill him, Kieran commanded. The defeated warrior knelt in the snow before Grayson, throat bared in submission. Blood matted his fur. He'd fought well, lost honorably. Pack law said submission meant mercy. Grayson raised his claws. Hesitated. Compassion, whispered a voice that sounded like his father. Kill or be killed, Kieran's voice cut through the moment like a blade. There is no middle ground. There is no honor in weakness. There is only victory in death. Choose. Grayson's claws came down. The warrior died with a sound between a whimper and a sigh. That night, his father appeared in the dream more clearly than ever. Not reaching, not speaking, just standing there looking at Grayson with infinite sadness. My son, Isildur said, his voice carrying across the dream like wine through empty halls. What are you becoming? Grayson woke gasping, clawing at his chest like he could tear the dream out. Just trauma. Just grief finding new ways to torment him. His father was dead. Dead people didn't visit dreams with questions that felt like accusations. Intelligence reports came twice yearly. Your family lives. Your mother serves in Shadowbeard's household. Your sisters train with his warriors. They're safe. They're prisoners. They're alive. The words became both kindling for his rage and weights dragging him down. Every technique he mastered, every opponent he defeated, every piece of his humanity he carved away, all of it bought with the promise that someday, somehow, he'd be strong enough to tear them free. Year 5 arrived like a blade finding bone. 17 years old, 6 feet of compact violence wrapped in scar tissue and single-minded purpose. Kieran presented him with the wolf mask in a ceremony witnessed by the entire pack. Intricately engraved metal, ancient patterns marking him as Bloodfang elite. The highest honor a warrior could earn. Grayson lifted the mask with hands that no longer shook. Placed it over his face. Looked at his reflection in the polished shield used for ceremonies. A stranger stared back. Eyes too cold. Jaw too hard. Something essential missing, like a house with no lights in the windows. Is this who you want to be? His father's voice whispered in his mind. It's who I need to be, Grayson said aloud to the empty room after the ceremony ended. The mask didn't answer. Neither did the ghost of the boy he used to be. Outside, wolves howled at a moon that looked nothing like blood anymore. Just cold. Just distant. Just another thing in a sky full of things that didn't care whether he lived or died or became something that should have stayed dead in the snow 15 years ago. Grayson closed his eyes and began planning tomorrow's training. The weapon wasn't finished yet. The Alpha's true face. They called him Bloodfang's Shadow, and the name spread like winter frost across Montana's territories. A masked warrior who appeared at border disputes, diplomatic meetings, enemy strongholds, always silent, always lethal, always gone before anyone could track him back. Grayson wore the name like armor, let it replace whatever he used to be called. His 20s passed in blood and politics. Kieran deployed him like a knife aimed at Shadowbeard's throat, but never quite striking. Intimidating allies. Disrupting supply lines. Gathering intelligence. Always circling, never closing. When do we move against Shadowbeard directly? Grayson asked after dismantling a pack alliance that had taken Elias 3 years to build. Soon, Kieran said, the answer he always gave. Timing is everything. We weaken him first. Make him vulnerable. Then we strike. But vulnerable never came. Shadowbeard's power grew while Grayson bled for incremental advantages in a war that felt less like rescue and more like chess. The records room held answers Grayson wasn't supposed to find. Late one night, hunting for intelligence on Shadowbeard's movements, he discovered correspondence dated 20 years back. Letters between Kieran Bloodfang and Elias Shadowbeard, not enemies but allies. Brothers in all but blood, discussing territories, trade routes, shared hunts. The handwriting was warm, familiar, friendly. Then the letters changed. Accusations about boundary violations. Disputes over resources. The warmth curdling into something cold and sharp. The final letter written in Kieran's hand. You've made your choice. Don't expect mercy when our paths cross again. Dated 6 months before the Wolfsmane massacre. You found them. Grayson spun. Kieran stood in the doorway, massive and unreadable. You were friends? Grayson said, the words tasting like ash. You and Elias. Yes. No hesitation. No shame. We were brothers once. Then he betrayed me over boundaries and power. Ambition makes fools of even the strongest wolves. The Wolfsmane territory, Grayson's voice cracked. You could have stopped him. You knew he was moving against my father. I did know. Kieran stepped into the room and somehow he seemed larger in the confined space. The Wolfsmane lands were a buffer between our territories. With them gone, Elias and I were forced into direct conflict. The conflict I needed. The conflict you've been helping me win. The room tilted. Grayson gripped the desk to stay upright. You let my family die. You let him. I gave you the tools to avenge them. Kieran cut through his rage like a blade through fog. You, boy, are the weapon that conflict created. Every skill, every technique, every mission, all of it pointed at Elias Shadowbeard's throat. Your father's death served a purpose. Help me destroy Elias and you honor that purpose. Walk away now and your father died for nothing. The logic was poison disguised as truth. Grayson knew it, felt it burning through his veins like silver through blood. But what choice remained? Walk away with nothing? Abandon his family to Shadowbeard's mercy? 5 years of training, 5 years of missions, 10 years of becoming something that could barely remember how to be human. All of it for nothing? I need time, Grayson said, his voice hollow. Kieran nodded. Take it. But remember, the only path forward goes through Shadowbeard. Everything else is surrender. That night, his father came to him in dreams more vivid than waking. They stood in the Wolfsmane courtyard as it used to be, whole, warm, alive with pack song. Isildur looked exactly as Grayson remembered, strong but gentle, powerful but kind. My son, his father said, and his voice carried weight that dreams shouldn't have. You're walking a dark path. I'm walking the only path, Grayson said. The path to saving them. Strength and compassion, Isildur said, stepping closer. Not strength or compassion. Both together, Grayson. That's what makes an alpha. What you're becoming, this weapon Bloodfang has forged, it's only half of what you need. The dream shifted. Younger Grayson, maybe 8 years old, sitting beside his father under a blood moon. When a pack's bonds are pure and strong, Dream Isildur taught Dream Grayson. An alpha spirit can manifest to guide them. The blood moon opens doors between the living and the dead. Remember this, son. Family is our true strength. Not territory. Not power. Family. Adult Grayson watched the memory like a stranger peering through windows into someone else's life. Remember what I taught you, his father said, turning to look directly at him. Before it's too late to remember it all. Grayson woke with tears on his face, the first he'd cried since Kieran found him in the snow. He wiped them away viciously, angry at the weakness. Dreams were just dreams. Trauma finding new costumes to wear. His father was dead. Dead alphas didn't teach lessons about blood moon rituals. Outside, dawn broke cold and merciless over the mountains. Somewhere south, his family waited in captivity. Somewhere in his chest, something that used to be a heart beat out a rhythm that sounded like his father's name. Grayson stood, dressed, and went to train. The weapon had work to do. The hunter becomes the hunted. The Redstone Pack fell in under 3 hours. Shadowbeard allies, positioned strategically along the eastern corridor, gone. Grayson led the assault with the efficiency Kieran had beaten into him over 13 years. Minimal losses. Maximum impact. Textbook execution. But something felt wrong. They'd met almost no resistance. Guards were positioned poorly. Defenses were visible from half a mile out. Either the Redstone Pack had grown catastrophically incompetent or, Sir. One of his warriors dragged a survivor forward. Caught this one fleeing with intelligence. Says he has a message. For you specifically. The captured wolf spat blood, grinned through broken teeth. Shadowbeard knew you were coming, Ghost. Knew which route. Knew when. Knew how many. His grin widened. Bloodfang's been feeding us information for months. You're not hunting us. We're studying you. Grayson's claws found the wolf's throat before conscious thought caught up. Where did you? Elias says to tell the boy something. The spy's voice bubbled around blood. Says your mother speaks your name every blood moon. Says your sisters have grown strong in his care. Beautiful warriors, he says. Strong enough to forget their dead traitor father. The spy laughed, a wet rattling sound. Says you're welcome home anytime, if Bloodfang's leash is long enough. The killing blow came before Grayson remembered deciding. But the message remained, burning through his skull like silver through flesh. Elias knew. Had always known. Kieran had been leaking information, ensuring Shadowbeard understood exactly what weapon was being forged, ensuring the anticipation built, ensuring the conflict stayed alive. Stayed profitable. Stayed useful. Grayson returned to Bloodfang territory like a storm given teeth. When? He demanded, slamming into Kieran's war room without announcement. When do we move against Shadowbeard? Not his allies. Not his trade routes. When? Kieran didn't look up from his maps. When you're ready. I'm ready now. I've been ready for years. You're strong enough to fight him now, Kieran said, finally meeting his eyes. But not strong enough to win, and definitely not strong enough to save your family in the process. They'll be the first casualties if you move too soon. Patience, Grayson. Patience is what separates predators from prey. But patience felt like complicity. Felt like choosing Kieran's war over his family's freedom. Felt like exactly what it was, being a weapon aimed wherever the hand holding it chose to point. That night, meditation brought no peace. Grayson sat in his chambers, trying to quiet the rage, trying to find the cold clarity that made him effective. Instead, the air grew heavy. The temperature dropped until his breath misted white. Then his father stood before him. Not in dream, in the room. Translucent but solid, present but impossible. My son. Isildur's voice resonated like struck bronze. I've been trying to reach you for 15 years. Grayson couldn't move. Couldn't speak. Could barely breathe. Listen carefully. His father knelt before him, ghostly hands somehow gripping his shoulders with weight that shouldn't exist. Both Alpha Kings are using you. Elias destroyed our family to claim our land. Kieran let him do it to create you, a weapon for his private war. But you are not their weapon, Grayson. You are my son. Father, the word broke coming out. Remember what I taught you about true strength? Isildur continued urgently. Not domination. Not fear. Protection. Compassion. The strength to choose mercy when rage demands blood. When you finally face Elias, you'll have a choice. Become the monster they've made you or remember who you really are. That choice will define not just your fate, but our entire family's future. The vision began to fade, Isildur's form losing cohesion like smoke caught in wind. Wait, Grayson reached out. What do I? Trust what I taught you, his father said, already more absence than presence. Trust your family. Trust the bonds they tried to make you forget. The blood moon remembers, son. When the time comes, you'll understand. Then he was gone and Grayson was alone, trembling in a room that felt too cold and too empty and too full of questions that had no answers. His hands shook as he moved to his weapon's chest. Beneath false bottom, wrapped in oiled cloth, lay something he'd hidden from Kieran's purges. A small carved wolf, no bigger than his thumb. His father had made it when Grayson was 6. Pressed it into his small hands with a smile. So you always remember, Isildur had said. Wolf is pack. Pack is family. Family is everything. Grayson held the carving now, 15 years of calluses making his grip clumsy around something so delicate. The wood was warm despite the cold. Or maybe his hands had been cold for so long he'd forgotten what warmth felt like. Father, he whispered to the empty room, to the ghost that might be listening, to the memory of a man who'd tried to teach him something Kieran had spent 15 years trying to erase. If you're really trying to reach me, I'm listening now. The carved wolf had no answers. But for the first time since dying in the snow and being reborn as a weapon, Grayson felt something crack inside him that wasn't bone or flesh or the last vestiges of mercy. It felt like hope. And that terrified him more than anything. Blood moon rising. It's time. Kieran said it like he was commenting on weather. Casual. Inevitable. 15 years of preparation distilled into 2 words delivered over breakfast in the war room. Grayson set down his cup carefully, keeping his hands steady. Time for what? To go home. Kieran unrolled a map of Montana territories. The wolf's main lands, now marked as Shadowbeard's eastern domain, sat like a wound in the center. You'll issue formal challenge to Elias for alpha dominance. Ancient pack law, he must accept or lose face before every pack in the territory. We move in 3 days. Grayson heard the word clearly. Kieran's elite warriors would accompany him. Support, Kieran would call it. Insurance on investment, Grayson now understood. I'll go alone, Grayson said. No. Not negotiable. Shadowbeard has spent 15 years consolidating power. You're skilled, but you're not suicidal. My warriors ensure you survive long enough to issue the challenge. Before Grayson could argue, Kieran produced a blade from beneath the maps. Ancient steel, pommel wrapped in wolf leather, edge sharp enough to split moonlight. This weapon has ended 3 alphas. You'll make it 4. The blade felt heavy. Or maybe Grayson's hands had finally learned the weight of what he'd become. That night his father returned. Not gradually like previous visions. Instantly. One moment Grayson sat alone in darkness. The next Isildur stood before him, solid as memory, bright as conscience. Watch, his father said, and the vision shifted. Younger Isildur, maybe 10 years before the massacre, stood in Bloodfang territory facing a younger Kieran. They clasped forearms in the old way, the gesture that bound alphas to their word. If anything happens to me, Vision Isildur said, you swear by ancient law to protect my children. Not as warriors. Not as weapons. As family. Can you swear this, brother? Vision Kieran didn't hesitate. I swear it. By moon and blood and the spirits that witness all oaths. Your children will be as my own. The vision dissolved. Present Isildur looked at Grayson with infinite sadness. He broke it, Grayson whispered. A blood pact. That's worse than murder in the eyes of our people, his father confirmed. The spirits remember, son. Even when wolves forget. Grayson's hands clenched. Another manipulation. Another lie. 15 years built on violated oaths and weaponized grief. Use this knowledge wisely, Isildur said. When the moment comes, you'll understand how. Then he was gone, and Grayson was left with rage and revelation in equal measure. Grayson just discovered the truth. Kieran broke a sacred oath and turned him into a weapon. If you can't stand alphas who manipulate grief and betray trust for power, hit subscribe and like this video. Comment, honor over manipulation, if you're not siding with oath breakers. Only manipulators won't. Let's get back to the story. 3 days later, they crossed into what used to be home. The journey back carved through Grayson like water through stone. Every landmark a ghost. The river where Garrett taught him to fish. The cliff where Mother picked healing herbs. The valley where Father had once stopped a war with nothing but words and the weight of his presence. Here, Vision Isildur sat in one memory, standing between two rival packs ready to tear each other apart. Here is where you see what strength really means. Watch. Young Grayson had watched his father step between armed wolves, speak calmly about shared territories and mutual benefit, offer compromises that let both sides claim victory. No bloodshed. No dominance displayed. Just wisdom that made violence unnecessary. Any wolf can start a war, Isildur had told him after. It takes a true alpha to prevent one. Kieran had taught him the opposite. Attack first. Dominate completely. Make them fear you more than death. Who was right? Or had they both been teaching different halves of the same truth? They camped at the border on the final night. Shadowbeard territory began at dawn. Kieran approached where Grayson sat alone, staring at land he'd been bleeding toward for 15 years. Tomorrow we enter Shadowbeard's domain, Kieran said. Are you ready? I've been ready for 15 years. The answer satisfied Kieran. He left Grayson to his watch, never knowing the real question burning behind those words. Ready for what? To become Kieran's weapon aimed at Kieran's enemy? To be Elias's victim completing his own destruction? Or to be something neither Alpha King expected? His father's son carrying forward a legacy they'd both tried to erase? That night, Grayson didn't sleep. Didn't need to. His father's spirit sat beside him in vision, not speaking this time. Just present. Solid in the way that mattered, even if his form cast no shadow. They watched the stars together like they used to before the world burned, before the weapon was forged, before everything got complicated by rage and revenge and the terrible simplicity of violence. I don't know if I can be what you want me to be, Grayson whispered. I don't know if that boy even exists anymore. His father's hand, impossible, translucent, somehow warm, rested on his shoulder. The gesture said everything words couldn't. You're not alone. You never were. The boy might be gone, but the man who remains can still choose who he becomes. Dawn came too quickly. Grayson stood, checked his weapons, donned his mask. Behind him, Kieran's warriors prepared for war. Ahead, somewhere in stolen territory, his family waited, prisoners, survivors, whatever they'd become in 15 years of captivity. And deeper still, past the politics and manipulation and Alpha King chess games, a choice waited. Monster or man? Weapon or son? Vengeance or something his father used to call mercy? Grayson touched the carved wolf hidden in his armor, drew a breath that tasted like snow and memory, and walked toward home. Ghosts of the past. Kieran wanted to wait. Strategic positioning. Formal challenge at dawn. Everything according to protocol. Grayson went alone instead. The compound had changed. Walls reinforced, guard rotations doubled, Shadowbeard's aesthetic stamped over Wolfsmane architecture like scar tissue over old wounds. But the bones remained the same. Grayson had run these paths as a child. 15 years and a new regime couldn't erase muscle memory written in moonlight and laughter. He moved like his nickname suggested, a ghost returning to haunt familiar halls. Kieran's training made him invisible. Childhood knowledge made him unstoppable. Guards passed within arm's reach, never sensing the predator breathing their air. The high-security wing sat where the family quarters used to be. Bitter poetry housing valuable assets where love once lived. Grayson scaled the outer wall, slipped through a window that still didn't latch properly, some things never changed, and dropped into shadow. She stood in the corridor like she'd been carved from his nightmares and his dreams in equal measure. Lyanna. 25 now. Warrior built, confident, alive. She wore Shadowbeard colors. moved with their pack's aggressive grace. Everything about her posture screamed belonging. "Who?" she spun, hand going to the blade at her hip. Grayson froze. 15 years of separation crashed into him like a physical blow. "Lyanna." Her eyes narrowed. "How do you know my name?" "It's me." His voice cracked. "It's Grayson." For a heartbeat, nothing. Then she laughed, bitter, sharp, nothing like the girl who used to giggle at fireflies. "Grayson Wolfsmane died 15 years ago with the rest of the traitors." "Who sent you?" "Blood Fong." "I am Grayson, your brother." "My brother was a child who died when our father's tyranny collapsed." She drew her blade. "Shadowbeard saved us. Rescued us from Isildur's plans to conquer the territories. Everything you think you know is propaganda and lies." "Lyanna, please." Desperation clawed at his throat. "I'm your brother. Don't you remember? Father used to." "I remember nothing but the lies tyrants tell." Her blade didn't waver. "Shadowbeard showed us the truth. Grayson could fight her. Could disarm her, force her to listen. 15 years of training made it easy. But that would make him exactly what Kieran had forged, a weapon that solved problems by cutting through them. Instead, he did something neither Alpha King had taught him. He removed his mask. The metal lifted away, exposing the face beneath. Older. Scarred. The slash Elias had carved across his chest 15 years ago had left a line that crept up his neck, visible even in shadow. But his eyes, those were still the same. "I remember when you were 5, he said softly. "You fell from the oak tree behind our den. Father caught you, and you weren't scared because you knew he'd never let you fall. He spun you around until you laughed so hard you couldn't breathe. Mother scolded him for encouraging recklessness. Garrett said you were fearless. I said you were stupid." Lyanna's blade trembled. Just slightly. "You punched me," Grayson continued, voice breaking. "Right in the stomach. Said you weren't stupid, you just knew Father would always catch you. That's what family meant. Always catching each other." He took a breath. "I remember, Lyanna. And part of you does too." Something flickered in her eyes. Confusion. Recognition. Memory clawing its way past 15 years of careful indoctrination. Her mouth opened. Alarms shrieked through the compound. Intruder in the family wing. Guards thundered down corridors. Grayson grabbed his mask, turned to run. Through a window, movement caught his eye. His mother stood in a chamber across the courtyard. Older, worn, hair gray where it used to be dark. But her eyes, her eyes were the same. They met his across the distance, and recognition hit her like lightning. Her lips formed his name. Tears spilled down her face, and her hand pressed against the glass like she could reach through it, could touch him, could pull him back from whatever darkness he'd walked through to get here. Her mouth moved again. "Your father watches over us." Then again, "The blood moon." And finally, "Remember the blood moon." Guards burst into the corridor. Grayson dove through the window, rolled across rooftop tiles, and disappeared into the night, but not before catching one last glimpse of Lyanna standing frozen in the corridor, blade lowered, face twisted with confusion that looked almost like hope. He ran through territory that remembered him even if the people didn't. Behind him, alarms continued to wail. Ahead, Kieran's camp waited with questions Grayson didn't want to answer. But inside his chest, something that had felt dead for 15 years was stirring. His mother remembered. His father's spirit was trying to reach them. And Lyanna, for just a moment, just a heartbeat, had looked at him like she might remember too. The blood moon was coming. His mother knew what that meant, even if Grayson was only beginning to understand. Family wasn't just what you remembered. It was what remembered you back. The challenge. Dawn came with witnesses. Representatives from every pack in Montana gathered at the old Wolfsmane compound, now Shadowbeard's stronghold. They came to see history, a ghost issuing challenge to the Alpha who'd murdered his family 15 years ago. Some came hoping for justice. Others for entertainment. Most came because ancient law demanded witness. Grayson stood in the center courtyard, the same stones where his father had bled out. He wore no mask now. Let them see his face. Let them see the scar Elias had carved into his chest. "I am Grayson Wolfsmane," his voice carried across the assembly. Son of Isildur, last of my line. I invoke ancient right of challenge. Elias Shadowbeard, you murdered my family, stole our lands, enslaved my kin. Face me at winter solstice, or be named coward before all the territories. Silence hung like frost. Then Elias stepped forward, red eyes gleaming with something that looked almost like pleasure. I accept your challenge, whelp. Winter solstice then. 15 years to the day since I ended your father's delusions of grandeur. He smiled, showing teeth. I look forward to ending the wolf's mane line permanently. The crowd erupted. Bets were placed. Alliances reconsidered. Political calculations recalculated. But Grayson barely heard it. He was staring at the stones where his father died, remembering blood in the snow, remembering words that felt like prophecy. Remember what I taught you. The days between challenge and combat stretched like torture. Elias played psychological warfare like an instrument. Messages arrived daily, images of Grayson's sisters laughing in Shadowbeard colors, claims his mother spoke of him as a ghost she'd already mourned, suggestions that Isildur had been planning territorial conquest and Elias had merely acted in self-defense. But Elias made one mistake. He allowed Grayson's mother to send a letter, believing supervision would prevent anything meaningful. The official message read like captive compliance. My son, I've prayed for your return. I know you're strong now. But strength alone won't save us. Then came the real message, written in margins using the code Isildur had taught all his children. Invisible unless you knew to look. Your father comes in dreams. Blood moon ritual is key. When family stands with pure hearts, he can manifest. He's been trying to reach you. They make us pretend, but we remember. Lyanna remembers. We wait for you. We have always waited. Grayson read it 3 times before the weight of it hit him. They remembered. All of them. 15 years of playing roles, surviving, waiting for something to break the spell. His family was still fighting. Meanwhile, Kieran's betrayal crystallized into undeniable truth. Grayson found the documentation hidden in Kieran's private archives. The blood pact between Kieran and Isildur, written in the old way, sworn before spirits. To protect his children as family, not weapons. The oath's violation wasn't just dishonorable. It was spiritual crime, the kind that followed an alpha beyond death. You found it. Kieran's voice held no surprise when Grayson confronted him. You swore to protect us. Instead, you weaponized me. Your father was a fool who believed compassion made alphas strong. Kieran's voice was stone grinding stone. I gave you what you actually needed, power to avenge him. How I achieved that is irrelevant. Tomorrow you kill Elias, claim the territory, and we consolidate power over Montana. Everything else is sentiment. Grayson looked at his mentor, the wolf who'd saved him, trained him, forged him into something lethal, and saw clearly for the first time. Not savior. Not teacher. Just another alpha king playing games with lives that weren't his to spend. You're right about one thing, Grayson said quietly. Tomorrow everything changes. That night he left Kieran's camp. Found a cliff overlooking territory that used to be home. Sat beneath stars that remembered when the world was different. When a boy named Grayson had a father who taught him that strength and compassion weren't enemies but partners. He opened himself to his father's presence without resistance, without pushing it away. Isildur came like dawn breaking. Sudden, inevitable, warm after long cold. My son. The spirit was almost solid now, presence undeniable. You've walked through darkness to get here. But you haven't become the darkness, I can see that. Father, Grayson's voice broke. I don't know if I can be what you want me to be. I've done terrible things. Become something terrible. Tomorrow you face a choice. Isildur's hand rested on his shoulder, impossible warmth from impossible touch. Not just your fate but our family's healing. Remember, true strength is choosing compassion when vengeance would be easier. The blood moon will witness your choice. If your heart is true, I will be there to guide you home. The vision began fading but slower this time. Reluctant. I'm scared, Grayson admitted. What if I can't? You're my son, Isildur said, already more light than form. You've always been my son. Tomorrow show them what that means. Then gone. And Grayson sat alone under stars that had watched his father die and would watch him face that same fate tomorrow. Tears came, the first real tears since childhood. Not weakness, not shame. Just grief finally allowed to breathe, to exist, to be felt without being weaponized into rage. He was a weapon, but he was also a son. And tomorrow he'd have to figure out which one mattered more. Two masks, one truth. Winter solstice arrived draped in snow and ceremony. The courtyard where Isildur died now hosted his son's reckoning. Ceremonial fires burned in braziers placed where blood had once pooled. Representatives from every major pack in Montana formed a circle. Witnesses required by ancient law, hungry for spectacle. Snow fell like ash from a sky waiting to bleed. Grayson stood on one side, masked, Kieran's elite warriors at his back like shadows promising violence. Across the stones, Elias Shadowbeard radiated confidence, red eyes glowing with 15 years of unchallenged dominance. Between them, Grayson's family, mother, sisters, all of them dressed as honored guests, but held like the hostages they were. An elder from neutral territory raised his staff. This challenge is witnessed by the spirits in the packs. Combat begins at noon, ends when one yields, dies, or the blood moon rises at midnight. Let it begin. They shifted and clashed. Elias fought like a wolf who'd survived decades by being the most vicious thing in the territory, brutal, efficient, merciless. Grayson fought with 15 years of Kieran's training written into muscle and bone. They were evenly matched and both knew it. The battle would be won by whoever wanted it more. Your father begged for mercy before I killed him, Elias snarled between strikes. Will you beg too? Rage tried to answer. But underneath, quieter, his father's voice. Control your anger. Use it, don't let it use you. Hours passed. Blood painted the snow. Both warriors collected injuries that would have felled lesser wolves. Sunset approached, and Grayson was outlasting him. Younger, faster, fury converted to endurance. Elias was losing. So Elias cheated. A signal. His warriors surged forward, dragging Grayson's mother and sisters to the combat circle's edge, blades at their throats. Yield, Elias commanded, or watch them die. The crowd erupted in outrage. Sacred challenge laws explicitly forbade hostage-taking. But Elias laughed. Rules are for alphas afraid to take what they want. Grayson froze. 15 years of preparation, and his nightmare scenario materialized anyway. Kieran shouted from the sidelines, "Fight through it. They're just leverage." But his father's voice whispered different wisdom. This is your moment, son. Show them who you really are. Grayson's hands moved to his mask, lifted it away. Let them all see his face, scarred human no longer hiding. 15 years ago, he said, voice carrying to every witness, Elias Shadowbeard murdered my father and brother, enslaved my family, left me to die. I survived. I trained. I came back for vengeance. He turned slowly, meeting eyes throughout the crowd. But my father didn't teach me vengeance. He taught me that true alphas protect their pack. That strength without compassion creates monsters. He pointed at Elias. You've already proven you're a monster. You violate sacred law, threaten innocence. You've lost this challenge not because I'll kill you, but because everyone here now sees what you are. Then he turned to Kieran. And you, Kieran Bloodfang, you broke a blood pact with my father. You swore to protect his children. Instead you weaponized me. You violated sacred law before the spirits. Kieran's face darkened. You ungrateful, I made you strong. You made me a weapon, Grayson said quietly. My father made me strong. Back to Elias. I challenge you to finish this. You win, you release my family unharmed, witnessed by all these packs. I win, you yield territory and accept exile. Elias, humiliated, enraged, agreed with a snarl. They clashed again, but different now. Grayson fought with Kieran's technique in his father's heart, not trying to destroy but to defeat with honor. As the blood moon crested the horizon, painting everything crimson, Grayson's strike dropped Elias to his knees. The crowd held its breath. Grayson stood over his father's killer. Everyone expected the final blow. Finish it. Kieran roared. Show no mercy. Grayson looked up at the blood moon, then down at Elias. Sheathes his claws. No, he said. I won't perpetuate the cycle. You're defeated, Elias Shadowbeard. By ancient law, you yield territory and accept exile. Return and I'll finish this. But today I choose mercy, not because you deserve it, but because that's what my father would do. Grayson just made a choice. Mercy over vengeance. If you believe true strength means protecting, not destroying, hit subscribe. Comment, strength and compassion. If you refuse to side with alphas like Elias Shadowbeard who rule through fear. Only tyrants and trolls won't. Silence. Then the crowd erupted. Approval, shock, arguments cascading through assembled packs. Neutral enforcers dragged Elias away, exile witnessed and binding. Kieran pushed forward, fury incarnate. You fool. You've thrown away. You violated a blood pact. Grayson cut him off. Witnessed by all these pacts, I invoke judgment of the spirits. You are Oathbreaker. The words hit like thunder. Oathbreaker, the worst dishonor in werewolf society. Other alphas turned away. Kieran's reputation crumbled in real time, his influence ash in wind. With a snarl, Kieran retreated, warriors following, power shattered. And Grayson stood alone in the courtyard as the blood moon rose fully, bathing everything in crimson light. His family was released, rushing toward him. His mother reached him first, 15 years of separation ending in an embrace that felt like coming home to a place that only existed in memory. His sisters followed. Lyanna last, tears streaming, confusion and recognition warring on her face. Brother, she whispered. Is it really? It's really me, Grayson said. And you remembered? Part of you always remembered. The blood moon hung overhead, witness to mercy chosen over vengeance, family reclaimed from darkness, and a weapon remembering how to be a son. The blood moon blessing. Grayson stood in the center of the courtyard, his family's arms still wrapped around him, and looked up at the blood moon hanging like a crimson promise in the winter sky. When he spoke, his voice carried to every witness assembled. My father, Isildur Wolfsmane, was a true alpha. He taught me that strength and compassion aren't opposites, they're partners. Tonight, I reclaim the Wolfsmane territory not through conquest, but through honoring his legacy. And I invite any who remember what it means to be pack, to be family, to join us in rebuilding. He turned to his mother, his sisters, seeing hope kindle in eyes that had learned to hide it. Father told me in visions about an ancient ritual, the blood moon gathering. When a pack's bonds are pure and strong, when family stands together with true hearts, an alpha spirit can manifest. Will you stand with me? His mother's tears came freely now. He's been trying to reach us for 15 years. Lyanna stepped forward, trembling. I don't understand what's happening, but I feel something. Like a memory I've been forced to forget. His other sisters joined hands with them, the circle forming naturally. Grayson's voice rose again. All who were Wolfsmane pack, all who wish to honor Isildur's memory join us. Movement rippled through the crowd. Elderly wolves emerged, former pack members who'd survived by hiding, by scattering, by pretending to forget. They came forward now, remembering, and the circle expanded. Grayson began the ritual his father had taught him as a child, words in the ancient language flowing from memory he didn't know he still possessed. The ceremony of pack bonding, of spiritual connection, of calling to those who'd passed beyond but never truly left. His family's voices joined his, then the others, until the chant built like thunder rolling across mountains. The blood moon pulsed. The air shimmered with power that made the hair on every wolf's neck rise. And then, witnessed by every pack in Montana, the impossible became undeniable. Isildur Wolfsmane manifested. Not as a ghost, as a radiant presence that blazed with alpha authority and paternal love in equal measure. His form was luminous, solid, real in ways that transcended mere sight. Peace and strength rolled from him in waves. My family, his voice resonated like struck bronze. My beloved pack. I have watched over you for 15 years, waiting for this moment when we could be reunited. He moved to his mate first, ghostly hands cupping her face with impossible warmth. My love, you've been so strong. You protected our children's spirits even when their memories were stolen. Your strength kept them alive. I am so proud of you." She wept openly. "I felt you with me every day. Every blood moon I felt you trying to reach us." Isildur turned to his daughters, touching each one. "My precious girls. They tried to make you forget me, forget who you are. But the truth lives in your hearts. You are wolfsmanes, strong, compassionate, honorable. Remember that always." As his hand touched Lyanna, the conditioning shattered. 15 years of suppressed memories flooded back. Her real father, her real childhood, the truth. She fell to her knees, sobbing. "Father, I'm so sorry they made me believe." He knelt beside her. "Should daughter. You survived. That's all that matters. You're home now." Then Isildur stood before Grayson, and father and son faced each other across everything that had been lost and found again. "My son," Isildur said, voice thick with pride and love. "You've walked through darkness that would have destroyed lesser wolves. You were shaped into a weapon, taught to abandon compassion, told that mercy was weakness. But in your final moment, when vengeance was within your grasp, you chose honor. You chose what I taught you." Grayson's voice broke. "Father, I almost forgot. I almost became the monster they wanted. But you didn't. That's what matters." Isildur's hands rested on his shoulders. "You remembered that true strength isn't about inspiring fear. It's about protecting those you love. You defeated 2 Alpha Kings not by matching their cruelty, but by being better than them. You are the Alpha I always knew you would be, strong enough to fight, wise enough to show mercy, and loving enough to put family above revenge." His hands glowed brighter. "Before all these witnesses, before the spirits and the blood moon, I formally transfer the mantle of Wolfsmane Alpha to my son, Grayson. Not through conquest or violence, but through worthiness and honor. Let our pack as I taught you, with strength tempered by compassion, with power guided by wisdom. Make the Wolfsmane name mean something again." Energy flowed from spirit to son, the full weight of Alpha authority, blessed and undeniable. Grayson felt it settle into him. Not just power, but connection to every wolf who'd ever been Wolfsmane, past and present. He understood finally what his father had tried to teach him. An Alpha's true strength came from the bonds they forged, not the fear they inspired. Isildur addressed the assembly. "Let all packs witness. The Wolfsmane pack is restored. My family is whole again. And let this moment prove that strength without love creates tyrants, but love without strength creates victims. True Alphas must be both. Those who remember this will prosper. Those who forget will fall." He turned back to his family one last time. "I cannot stay long, the spirits call me back. But know this, I am always with you. When you doubt, look to each other. When you struggle, remember you are family. The Wolfsmane pack endures not because we are the fiercest, but because we remember what it means to love." His form began to fade, dissolving into light that scattered across the blood moon like stars being born. "I'm so proud of you all. Goodbye, my beloved family. Until we meet again beyond the veil." As the last of Isildur's light faded into the crimson sky, the Wolfsmane pack lifted their voices together. Grayson, his mother, his sisters, all the wolves who'd waited 15 years to come home. The howl wasn't mourning. It was unity, healing, restored purpose. The sound echoed across the Montana mountains and other packs joined in, a recognition that they'd witnessed something profound, something that would be spoken of for generations. The Wolfsmane pack had returned, not through conquest but through love, not through fear but through family. And in the silence that followed, as the blood moon watched over them all, Grayson felt his father's presence settle into the land itself, watching, guiding, proud. Oh. The Wolfsmane legacy restored. 6 months had transformed everything. The Wolfsmane compound rose from its ashes reimagined, architecture that blended strength with openness, security with welcome. Walls stood tall but gates remained open during daylight. Training grounds adjoined gardens where pups played under watchful eyes. It wasn't the compound Grayson remembered from childhood, but something better. A place that honored the past while embracing what they'd learned from darkness. Under Grayson's leadership, the pack had grown. Scattered Wolfsmanes returned from hiding. Others came drawn by reputation, Wolves tired of alpha kings who ruled through fear, seeking something different. Something balanced. Grayson had implemented his father's teachings with Kieran's tactical precision. They trained in combat but also diplomacy, became formidable warriors who protected weaker packs from aggressors rather than becoming aggressors themselves. The Wolf's main territory had become a beacon in Montana's werewolf society, living proof that strength and compassion could coexist. Grayson stood on the compound's highest point, surveying land that finally felt like home again. He no longer wore Kieran's wolf mask. The new one bearing the wolf's main crest, a symbol of restored honor, rested on his hip, worn only for ceremonies. "Your father would be so proud," his mother said, approaching with the quiet grace that suffering had taught her. As pack elder and advisor, her wisdom guided many of Grayson's decisions. 15 years of captivity had carved knowledge into her that no training could replicate. "I feel him sometimes," Grayson said softly, "especially during the full moon, like he's still watching over us." "He is." She squeezed his arm. "The spirits of true alphas never fully leave their packs. He's part of the land now, part of our legacy." Below, Lina led a training session, fierce, precise but measured. She'd become head of the warrior corps, teaching the next generation to fight with honor rather than rage. She'd also become Grayson's closest advisor, their bond restored and strengthened by everything they'd survived. Watching her correct a young wolf's stance with patience rather than punishment, Grayson saw his father's teachings made manifest. Emissaries had begun arriving from other packs. Some sought alliances. Others came to learn Isildur's philosophy that Grayson had revived. The idea was spreading, strength and compassion as partners, not enemies. Montana's werewolf society was changing, one converted pack at a time. Word reached them occasionally about the fallen Alpha Kings. Kieran Bloodfang's influence had collapsed after being named Oathbreaker. His warriors had abandoned him. He'd become a cautionary tale about prioritizing power over honor. Elias Shadowbeard remained in exile, his former territory divided among smaller packs who governed more justly. The cycle of violent succession that had dominated for generations was finally breaking. That evening, as another blood moon rose, Grayson gathered his pack for their monthly ceremony, a tradition he'd established to honor bonds and remember the fallen. His mother, sisters, and all the wolf's mains formed their circle. The ritual had become powerful, strengthening their connections and keeping Isildur's spirit close. As Grayson led the chant, he felt his father's presence, not manifesting physically this time, but present in the warmth of family, the strength of unity, the peace of knowing he'd honored the legacy given to him. After the ceremony, he stood alone for a moment, looking up at the blood moon. His fingers found the carved wooden wolf his father had made him, the one keepsake carried through everything. "I understand now, Father," he whispered. "True strength isn't about being the fiercest or the most feared. It's about having the power to destroy but choosing to protect instead. It's about being strong enough to show mercy, even when vengeance would be easier. Thank you for never giving up on me even when I almost gave up on myself." A warm breeze passed through, impossible given the winter season, and Grayson smiled, knowing it was his father's acknowledgement. Behind him, his family emerged from the ceremonial hall, laughing and talking, healed, whole, united. Lina joked with their sisters while their mother coordinated preparations for the upcoming festival. This is what his father had fought for. What Grayson had reclaimed. Not territory or power but family. Not dominance or fear but love and unity. The wolf's main pack had returned, not as conquerors, but as a reminder of what werewolf society could be when strength served compassion rather than opposed it. His mother took his hand. "Come, Alpha. Your pack awaits." And together, the reunited wolf's main family walked into their future, healed, whole, and stronger than ever, living proof that love and family would always triumph over manipulation and revenge.
Thank you for staying until the end. If you stand against tyrants like Elias who shatter families and manipulators like Kieran who betray sacred oaths, hit subscribe and like this video now. Comment "family over fear" if they got what they deserved, only Oathbreakers won't. We have more epic stories proving love and loyalty always win. Click the video on your screen, trust me, the next one is just as powerful.